Okay, guys, we're going to go ahead and jump into looking at our study guide and just kind of summarizing everything we've learned so far with heat transfer. So we have three things right now, three terms that we're trying to define for just to kind of begin today. So we have the three methods of heat transfer. We have conduction, convection, and radiation. So remember, you need to write these in complete sentences as you are answering them just to practice your literacy skills. But conduction is heat transfer through direct contact of particles. And if your sentence is different from mine, I like that. So I encourage you to have your own version of the sentence. Just make sure it aligns with mine, that it's similar to my definition. Convection is heat transfer through liquid / gas particles with proximity or being close. Let's see, being close. Okay, and I want to remind you that these convection currents are going to travel up and down in these like little pathways where the high energy particles move upwards because they have a lower density, and then they drop off their energy, and then they come back down. So again, there's no direct contact that is needed. And the last one is radiation is heat transfer without the need for a medium. And I want to remind you that that word medium means matter. I'll put the period over there. All right, let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Which has more thermal energy. So we have two examples here in this picture. If you watch the video that's connected on your document, what you're going to see is that there is a picture of a coffee cup and a picture of, let's go here, of an iceberg. And it says which of these has more thermal energy. Well, again, one thing I want you guys to think about as you're doing these kinds of problems is think about mass times temperature. If you think of it that way, it can help you to understand. So let's say the coffee cup had was 7 degrees Celsius and it had a half kilogram, whereas the iceberg was like 10,000 kilograms and its temperature was like, we'll say it was 40 degrees Celsius. So that's just above freezing. So the iceberg is not quite melting yet, but it's getting close to it. So over here, your number is going to be something around like 400,000, whereas over here you're going to have like 35. So in this situation, even though the iceberg is colder, it's going to have more thermal energy. Okay. And again, you got to think about how you want to put that into a sentence and make sure, you tell me like why it is true. How does the sun's light and heat reach the earth? And so here's the sun. Let's just draw the earth, little tiny thing right there. And here is all the light and energy going to the earth. And the answer to that is going to be that it is going to use radiation. And that is because there is no air in space. So Between the Earth and the Sun, there is no matter, so it can't use conduction, and it cannot use convection. So it has to use radiation. Again, think about how you want to put that into a sentence for your answer. Explain convection currents. Well, in convection currents, you are going to have high energy particles move upward to transfer energy, and lower energy particles drop down to receive energy. So let's think about it. So let's say these high energy particles are, they gain energy. When they're down at the bottom, they gain energy. They move up. They pass that energy on. And when they pass that energy on, they lose the energy. They no longer have it. And then they begin to come back down. And then when they come down, they're able to receive more energy. So think of like little UPS trucks that are picking up energy, dropping it off, coming back, picking up more energy. And that's how these things work. They go in, they just rise up, they pass on their energy, they come back down, they receive more. And that's because energy, particles that have higher energy are going to have a lower density. They're moving much more faster. They're moving much more rapidly. They have, their density, which is the relationship between mass and volume, is much lighter, so they're able to float on top of those low energy particles. And this happens in the ocean. This happens in the sky with, if you're flying a kite, this is pretty much why that kite is staying in the air, because of these convection currents. But again, your sentence can be whatever you want it to be. You do not have to copy mine. What is an example of conduction in your home? Well, I think all of us of some type have some kind of a cooking surface. It might be a pan, it might be a skillet, it might be something that's just a nonstick, something or other that we're cooking on. But if you put if you put a pan on the stove and you heat it up, right? You are able to cook food, whatever you want to cook in there. Maybe it's eggs. Maybe you're cooking some eggs in your skillet. Okay, so yes, that would be an example of that. Also, I mean, let's say you don't do that. Maybe you have like a bowl, right? And maybe there's some soup in the bowl, and in that bowl you have a spoon, and the soup is really hot, and you put the spoon in the water, or you put the spoon in the soup, and it's getting really hot, and you touch the side of that spoon, and you can actually burn your hand if it's really hot. You could get hurt by that, if it's extremely hot. So that's an example of conduction. But the general idea of conduction, and when you write your sentence, this is what I'm looking for. I want you to have something in your sentence that mentions direct contact of particles. So some kind of a direct contact that's enabling that to take place. So we have some insulators, we have conductors. So let's go ahead, and even though you need to write sentences for these, I'm going to help you out by simply making a quick chart here. And on one side, I'm going to label insulators. And on the other side, I'm going to label conductors. All right, so we have 3 of each we need. So the general idea is that conductors are very good at conducting, right? So it deals with conduction. You can kind of see that in the name if you look at the word part here, conduct. That's the verb. right? Conduction is the act of conducting. So what are some great conductors? Well, I think iron is a great conductor. Aluminum is a great conductor, and honestly, and then also steel. Now, the one thing these all have in common is that these are all types of cookware you can have for your kitchen. So sometimes you can have a pot or a pan for cooking that's made out of iron, aluminum, or steel. Those are all things you can buy for your kitchen. Now, for insulators, when you bring something out of the oven, you want to have an oven mitt that is made out of cloth. Sometimes these are made out of a type of plastic. And sometimes, cooking implements, like if you want to have something in this pan that you're using, sometimes you can have like a wooden spatula or a wooden spoon. So wood is another insulator. And so, guys, you can just kind of always go back to your kitchen as like your first science lab. Kitchens are science labs if you think about it. So these are some conductors and these are some insulators. Make sure you turn this information into complete sentences to answer your study guide appropriately. All right, and now we have this table. Write a paragraph explaining how the methods of heat transfer are similar and different. And so here we wanted to have just some examples, just to kind of help you set this up. So we're going to complete the table below, and then you guys are going to write for me, and we're going to be comparing and contrasting. So when you are answering these, you want to talk about how they are alike and how they are different. So compare is how they're alike, contrast is how they're different. And one thing that these all have in common is that they all transfer thermal energy. Okay, so the first is radiation. An example of that would be sun heating the earth. Another example is microwaving your food. So remember that when you put something in the microwave, it uses radiation to heat up your food. Does not need any kind of, you could use a microwave in space, it would work. Convection. This would be like if you are boiling something, you'll have the water moving up in those convection currents. This is also air moving upward on a hot day, right? So air currents moving upward. Now, one example I did not mention yet is if you ever watch hawks flying, hawks are able to just kind of float in the air by spreading their wings because the hot air rises and that keeps the hawks afloat. They don't really have to move their wings very much. Okay, so conduction would be like cooking eggs on a pan or a skillet. Making pancakes, another example of that. And another example of conduction would be like if you touch like a piece of metal that's hot, you could burn your hand. So burning your hand on hot objects. Those are also examples of conduction. Now again, this is just to kind of help you as a pre-write prior to writing the paragraph for me. You might have to write 2 of those to fully and adequately answer the question. But today what I'm looking for is I'm looking for those complete sentences. Again, this is for you guys to use those literacy skills that your language arts teachers have been working so diligently to help you attain. So we want to have you guys use those language arts skills as you complete your study guide. Make sure it is your best work, and I wish all of you the best of luck.